January 3rd, 2026. "You will not survive this without me." Those were the words. Multiple palace-adjacent sources confirm they reached Prince Harry in late November 2025 during a private call routed through California. The tone was not emotional. It was cold, calculated, and procedural. What followed was not a plea, not a negotiation, not reconciliation. It was an ultimatum. Meghan Markle demanded $50 million, and she wanted it quietly, under the radar. Framed as a comprehensive separation settlement, its design revealed something far more strategic. $20 million for assets, $15 million allocated to full custodial authority over Archie and Lily, bundled with long-term education funding and private security extending into adulthood. The final $15 million tranche? Reputational and opportunity loss. Claims she had forfeited prime earning years, endured what she called institutional cold violence in the UK, and had deliberately softened prior accusations to protect the monarchy from more damage. The message to Harry was crystal clear. This was the discounted version. The royal family refused to negotiate quietly. Meghan was ready to escalate, mobilizing elite US litigators, a global PR army, and sympathetic Hollywood heavyweights, including Oprah Winfrey and Tyler Perry. The battlefield was about to shift. From private negotiation rooms to the court of international public opinion, documentaries and interview leaks, all aimed at maximum reputational damage. Then came the line that reportedly shattered Harry. She told him she could destroy not only his career, but permanently destabilize the British monarchy itself. By winter 2025, Harry was no longer the defiant royal exile portrayed in earlier media cycles. Financially, he had deteriorated sharply. High-value media contracts collapsed, mounting legal costs drained resources, and income streams had vanished, leaving him dependent, exposed, and deeply anxious. Psychologically, he was worse. Friends describe a man unable to reconcile two irreconcilable identities, the son of a king and a private citizen, stripped of institutional protection in California. He was isolated. In Britain, untethered. The bridge between the two worlds he once imagined as a triumph of independence had become a fault line. In December alone, Harry made 2 unannounced UK trips, entering through private aviation terminals and avoiding public schedules. One lasted less than 18 hours. Another ended without a confirmed meeting. Palace security logs later labelled his movements non-operational and unscheduled, language reserved for personal, not official travel. These were not strategic visits. They were, as one insider put it, acts of emotional retreat. Harry was searching for absolution, or at least refuge. Instead, he found silence. The turning point came on January 1st, 2026. In a move that shattered decades of royal convention, King Charles III authorised legal action against his own daughter-in-law. The filing submitted to the High Court in London did not allege marital misconduct. It alleged coercion. At its core, the claim stated Meghan's representatives had repeatedly tied financial demands to implied threats, crossing the line between negotiation and extortion. The palace's position was stark. Silence was not for sale. The decision split opinion inside the institution. Prince William, Catherine, and Princess Anne aligned firmly behind the king. Capitulation, they warned, would establish a catastrophic precedent, inviting any former insider to monetize proximity to the crown in the future. Others urged restraint. Princess Beatrice, Princess Eugenie, Queen Camilla, and several former senior aides warned that confrontation risked validating Meghan's narrative and inflaming transatlantic opinion. But King Charles remained unmoved. Meghan's threat, he assessed, was performative. Noise, not law. Harry began to fracture. He spoke of compromise, partial concessions, of ending the war before it destroyed everyone involved. To palace ears, this sounded dangerously close to surrender to Meghan. It proved he was still pliable. The tragedy was not strategic. It was psychological. Harry was no longer choosing sides. He was trying to stop the pain, and in doing so, risked placing the monarchy in a defensive crouch, one that King Charles III and his most battle-hardened allies had already decided they would not assume. The crown does not negotiate under threat. What followed would determine not only the fate of a marriage, but the rules governing power, silence, and survival in the modern monarchy. When King Charles III issued his formal directive to proceed with legal action against Meghan Markle on the morning of January 1, 2026, it was not merely administrative. It was the culmination of months of mounting pressure, internal divisions, and unrelenting personal attacks. At the heart of the matter lay a $50 million demand cloaked in confidentiality. But what it truly exposed was a broader campaign of emotional leverage, institutional blackmail, and psychological fatigue within the House of Windsor. According to leaked correspondence reviewed by Royal Legal Counsel, Meghan's legal team approached palace intermediaries in late November 2025, outlining a so-called confidential compensation package to facilitate an amicable separation from Prince Harry. The ask was steep and precise: $20 million in asset division, mostly tied to Montecito properties and shared liquid investments, $15 million in long-term child support explicitly earmarked for Archie and Lily's education and lifelong security, and the most controversial, $15 million in reputational damages, justified by claims of forfeited earning years and cold treatment by members of the royal household. What alarmed the palace was not just the figures, but the conditions. The demand required a non-disclosure framework, ensuring Meghan's stays at Kensington Palace, Frogmore Cottage and Sandringham never reached public record. Embedded in the terms was a warning: fail to agree, and the next move would be in Hollywood, not the High Court. If you don't pay, the world will know, Meghan allegedly texted Harry in December 2025. Palace sources described the war room atmosphere as controlled panic. Meghan's plan wasn't about winning in court, it was about media escalation. Oprah, Tyler Perry, and top publicists were already briefed. Meghan's team was ready to launch a multi-platform offensive, framing the royal family as manipulative, emotionally abusive, and racially indifferent. The plan was audacious, yet Princess Catherine saw through it instantly. "It's not about justice, it's about leverage," she reportedly told a senior advisor at the Privy Council session on December 28, 2025. Meghan had neither intention nor legal standing to push this to trial. She wanted chaos, trading silence for relevance. Catherine, long versed in reputation management and crisis PR, agreed. A memo circulated internally warned that granting confidentiality under pressure would set a catastrophic precedent, encouraging future spouses, employees, or distant relatives to weaponize royal access. The crown cannot be held hostage by scandal fatigue. At the center of this storm was Harry, whose mental state had become a matter of national concern. Insiders confirmed he made 2 unannounced UK visits in November and December 2025, staying briefly at Windsor Lodge and Clarence House, meeting privately with his father and Catherine. He looked exhausted, not just physically. A staffer said he spoke like someone torn in 2 directions: loyalty to his children versus loyalty to the crown. "I just want peace," he admitted. But to him, peace meant appeasing Meghan. In private conversations, Harry confessed he lacked the financial capacity to meet the demands of separation without institutional support, fearing public ruin if he resisted. He referenced concerns about materials Meghan still held, hinting at personal recordings or documents threatened for release, though none were verified. More concerning was the emotional hold she appeared to retain. According to a confidant, Meghan warned Harry that siding with the palace would destroy not only him, but everything. Real or exaggerated, it paralyzed his decision-making. The palace had hoped Harry would mediate. Instead, his silence left one option: escalation. Integrity was non-negotiable. King Charles III, public address, January 1, 2026. The lawsuit filed under the High Court of Justice in London was designed to preemptively dismantle extortion threats, not merely address them, backed by financial audits, leaked messages, and sworn statements from former royal staff. The Crown's legal team framed Meghan's demand as coercive silence for payment, and yet public opinion remains volatile in the US and parts of the Commonwealth. Meghan still garners sympathy as a woman of colour who challenged entrenched traditions. In the UK, support is eroding. Over 72% of Britons polled by YouGov on January 2nd, 2026, believe Meghan's behaviour has become predatory, while 58% now support the lawsuit. Meanwhile, Palace insiders have begun compiling a dossier of Meghan's prior legal entanglements, including breach of contract lawsuits linked to Arch Foundation, alleged NDA violations, and unfulfilled licensing deals connected to American Riviera Orchard. As of January 3rd, at least 3 civil suits in California named Meghan Markle as a co-defendant, suggesting that her legal exposure may soon exceed her public leverage. The royal family, by its very design, has always wielded silence as strategy. From Queen Elizabeth's era of never explain, never complain, to the subtle, non-verbal signals of Princess Catherine's public appearances, silence has long been a tool of institutional power. The House of Windsor's authority has long stemmed from restraint, but in 2026, silence became a weapon turned against them. When Meghan Markle's $50 million demand exploded behind the scenes in late December, the palace's initial response was caution. Internally, advisers hoped to contain the situation through diplomacy rather than declarations, yet as leaked details of Meghan's conditional confidentiality spread to the press, it became clear this was not a settlement. It was an ultimatum behind closed doors, and Meghan was the first to break the spell of restraint. She didn't want to go to court and stated in a war council on December 30th, "I want to go viral." According to senior aides and insiders, her goal was to cut straight through the media fog. Meghan's goal was never litigation. It was power through perception, a crafted narrative that could, with the right timing and amplification, do more damage to the monarchy's credibility than any judge could ever authorize. Her stage isn't the courtroom, it's the algorithm, according to an anonymous Kensington Palace aide, December 2025. At the centre of this media storm is a carefully curated mythology. Meghan's narrative, quietly circulated among Hollywood allies and media fixers, revolves around personal sacrifice and emotional trauma. She reportedly told her legal team and select friends that she regretted the Netflix series only told half the truth and that she held back real pain to protect the monarchy's image. According to sources close to Meghan, she alleges that behind closed palace walls, she was subjected to what she calls cold violence, a form of emotional neglect, gaslighting, and silent exclusion. She argues this resulted in severe anxiety, public alienation, and the destruction of her career trajectory, for which she now seeks compensation to support her claims. Meghan's legal representatives framed their proposal to the palace as a confidential moral resolution, not a threat. However, emails dated December 11th to 18th, 2025, reportedly show that her legal team made repeated references to preserving royal dignity while simultaneously hinting at reputational damage. Should the palace decline, if we go public, there are details neither side will be able to walk back from, reads a confidential memo from Meghan's US legal team, December 14th, 2025. Faced with this growing storm, King Charles and Princess Catherine made a pivotal decision: break the silence. On January 1st, 2026, Buckingham Palace announced that His Majesty had authorised legal proceedings against Meghan Markle under British extortion and coercion statutes. This was no longer about Harry and Meghan. It was about setting a legal boundary for how far outsiders could exploit royal proximity. Yet the family remained divided. William and Catherine supported a hard-line stance, hoping to create a public firewall around the monarchy, while others urged compromise. Beatrice and Eugenie, known to be personally close to Harry, advocated for mediation. Even Queen Camilla surprisingly voiced concern about escalating the conflict into a full-blown international media war. "She doesn't have the evidence to win," Camilla reportedly said, "but she doesn't need to win. She just needs to publish enough to make us look like we lost." That observation rang chillingly true. The palace's internal review revealed that Meghan held no verifiable documentation to support her more serious claims, no signed NDAs violated, no recordings admissible in court, no HR complaints filed during her tenure in the UK. Her case on paper would likely crumble under discovery. In the court of public opinion, especially in the US market, a courtroom loss could still be spun into a media victory. They froze her out. Now they're paying the price, a commentator on US morning show Sunrise noted on January 2, 2026. Compounding this pressure was Prince Harry's visible decline. As of this week, he is reportedly staying alone in a private estate in Oxford, far away from Meghan and the children, taking meetings with neutral advisors, including several from his former military charity, Invictus. One source described him as haunted, a man torn between love and legacy, knowing that whichever side he chooses, the other will implode. His most recent text exchanges with William, leaked to The Times, showed Harry asking, "If I step away from her, do I lose my kids too?" The palace, meanwhile, is preparing for a worst-case scenario in which Harry, either out of guilt or desperation, signs off on Meghan's version of events, thus giving her campaign the legitimacy it needs to continue. Legal advisors to the king have quietly engaged independent experts to begin verifying all claims raised in Meghan's separation proposal, including the mental health impact, the timeline of alleged abuse, and the financial damages claimed. Early conclusions are damning. A confidential analysis by Barclay Family Trust auditors, dated December 27, 2025, shows that Meghan's personal earnings from speaking tours, Netflix, and product endorsements increased 210% in the first 18 months after leaving the royal family. The report concludes her platform expanded through disassociation, not sacrifice. Still, none of this ensures public clarity. The narrative battle is being fought in real time across Twitter threads, podcast panels, and international headlines. Every delay, every leak costs the monarchy credibility. The prince, who once strode confidently behind his mother's coffin in 1997, has become, in the words of one palace insider, a man divided by silence and swallowed by contradiction. As the legal feud between Meghan Markle and the royal family escalates into a constitutional crisis, Prince Harry, the once resilient spare, now finds himself trapped in a war he never wanted to lead and too broken to escape. In the earliest days of the Sussex split negotiations, palace aides had held a quiet hope that Harry would step in, that despite his estrangement, he might act as a bridge between the monarchy and Meghan, perhaps even propose a mediated resolution. Instead, the palace was met with something far more concerning: paralysis. Insiders close to both Clarence House and Harry's personal legal advisors confirmed that since mid-December 2025, the Duke of Sussex has been increasingly unwell, physically and mentally, described as disoriented, exhausted, and emotionally mute. Harry has cancelled 2 scheduled Zoom appearances for the Invictus Foundation, skipped a veterans forum in Toronto, and most notably refused to return to Montecito for Christmas with Meghan and their children. He is currently staying at a private countryside estate near Oxford, discreetly provided by one of Diana's former confidants. His staff has been reduced to 2 security personnel and 1 private therapist. No member of the royal family has visited him except for Princess Catherine, who made a private trip on December 29, 2025, that lasted only 90 minutes. He is stuck in a war of love and loyalty, and the shrapnel is all in his heart. Former Invictus board members, January 2026. Sources familiar with Harry's inner circle describe a man haunted by his own choices. His devotion to Meghan, once viewed as a brave rejection of royal rigidity, now appears to be a source of inner conflict. During one of his confidential therapy sessions in late December, leaked in part by a source within his mental health team, Harry allegedly admitted, "If I leave her, I lose everything. If I stay, I destroy everything else." Such language, both tragic and telling, highlights the emotional volatility gripping the prince. He is reportedly terrified of losing access to Archie and Lilibet, particularly given Meghan's push for full custody. Yet he is also aware that her legal strategy places him in direct conflict with the family that raised him and the institution that defines him. Still, Meghan has made it clear to Harry that she expects him to stand publicly by her or risk becoming complicit by silence. In one message reportedly sent on December 26th, she warned, "The monarchy won't save you and they'll never protect our children." The emotional toll is profound. His weight has dropped significantly, and multiple witnesses, including staff at Windsor Lodge, have described him as gaunt, withdrawn, and often unresponsive. Harry doesn't need a lawyer. He needs saving. Anonymous, Windsor Guard, January 2nd, 2026. His indecision has become a problem not only for his own mental well-being, but also for the palace's legal posture. Royal strategists had quietly hoped Harry would distance himself from Meghan's demands, especially the $50 million figure, widely regarded as morally unhinged given their public disavowal of royal resources in 2020. However, Harry has refused to take a position. He has not authorised any public statement, declined multiple legal briefings from the Crown solicitors, and, most worryingly, has not denied Meghan's claim that he supports the financial request as of January 3rd. His silence has already been used by Meghan's US legal team to suggest implied dissent, and the princess is reportedly livid. In a private conversation with the Privy Council's Lord President, she is said to have remarked, "Harry has become her shield. He may not have built the fire, but he's standing in front of it, letting us burn." The weight of her words reportedly reverberated through the council chambers, signalling a profound escalation of personal and institutional stakes, and highlighting the emotional leverage Meghan continues to wield over the Duke of Sussex. In response, Princess Catherine has adopted a more tactical approach. She has advised the palace media team to reposition Harry not as a co-conspirator, but as a casualty, a tired son caught between two clashing empires. In one memo circulated to press liaisons on January 2nd, Catherine instructed, "Emphasize his suffering. Let the world see what she's done to him, not what he's done to us." The framing was deliberate, designed to humanize Harry, to show the public that he is caught in circumstances far beyond his control, and to neutralize any potential narrative that could portray him as complicit in Meghan's actions. This shift in narrative is not without risk. It could backfire if Harry ultimately sides with Meghan in court, or, worse, in the media. Yet palace strategists believe that portraying Harry as a man mentally fractured, emotionally burdened, but morally intact could mitigate the worst reputational fallout and preserve the monarchy's credibility in the eyes of both domestic and international observers. While King Charles remains steadfast in pursuing the lawsuit, the emotional burden weighs heavily. According to a palace advisor, Charles's last call with Harry on December 24th ended in silence rather than rage. The king reportedly said, "You were born to protect the crown, but if you can't, at least stop helping those who want to burn it down." Harry said nothing in return. The call lasted just 14 seconds. In that brief exchange lies the stark reality. The future of the monarchy no longer hinges on titles or finances, but on whether one fractured son will choose duty over damage. And for now, all signs point to a man too broken to make that choice at all. As King Charles proceeds with the most unprecedented legal maneuver in modern royal history, Meghan Markle has shifted her battlefield. No longer confined to legal filings or private negotiations, the Duchess of Sussex has activated what insiders now call the scandal engine, a full-spectrum media apparatus designed not only to deflect the monarchy's legal pressure, but to reframe her narrative on a global scale. At the heart of this counteroffensive is a potent mixture of celebrity access, curated victimhood, and ideological alignment. Meghan's team understands that in 2026, truth is shaped not just in courtrooms, but across screens, hashtags, and social media platforms that reward emotional virality over procedural nuance. "If they want to war, we'll bring the cameras," an anonymous source from Meghan's PR team said on January 1st. Hours after Buckingham Palace announced the initiation of legal action, multiple US-based media outlets received off-the-record briefings from Markleist sources. The message was clear: Meghan is being punished for telling her truth. The royal family has failed to protect her as a woman of colour, and now they are attempting to silence her with intimidation rather than evidence. Almost immediately, sympathetic commentary flooded American media. Talk shows such as The Daily Signal and Morning Lift devoted entire segments to questioning the ethics of the crown. Social media exploded. Hashtags like #ProtectMeghan, #BlackWomanSilenced, and #MonarchyOnTrial trended globally within 12 hours. Meanwhile, Meghan's inner circle, led by Hollywood titans Oprah Winfrey and Tyler Perry, coordinated a narrative insulation strategy intended to humanize Meghan while framing the monarchy as a legacy institution out of step with contemporary values. This effort is not accidental. It is deliberate, strategic, and massive. Sources from her PR firm, believed to be the Bi-Coastal Collective, confirm that Meghan's team is preparing a feature-length documentary titled Royal Silence, focusing on her mental health struggles and survivor journey, as well as a podcast miniseries exploring modern monarchy and moral hypocrisy. Strategic appearances at high-profile women's rights events, including UN Women 2026, are reportedly planned. Meghan is not just fighting for herself. She is claiming the mantle of every silenced woman, according to a former Netflix executive on January 2nd. This framing places Buckingham Palace in a double bind. Push harder and risk being portrayed as persecutors of a vulnerable mother. Stay silent, and Meghan's narrative becomes uncontested truth. At the core of her media positioning lies a dangerous claim. Everything she has said publicly, on Oprah, Netflix, and Spotify, was only half the truth. Privately, she has told confidants that she pulled punches in the past to protect the royal family, but the legal aggression now frees her to reveal everything. The implications are chilling, an open threat to escalate disclosures unless the crown backs down. Palace officials believe this is not about exposure, but leverage, according to leaked memos from Kensington Palace. Meghan's statements align with a broader pattern observed by the Royal Media Strategy Unit. Patterned narrative inflation, in which partial truths are expanded and emotionally framed to generate sympathy and pressure institutional retreat, confirmed by a senior communications advisor to Prince William on January 3rd. Inside the palace, a war room has formed, headed by Princess Catherine, supported by the Queen's Counsel, Alistair Pembroke, and a newly hired Mayfair-based crisis firm. The strategy focuses on decelerating the narrative cycle. Tactics include reframing Harry as collateral damage, not co-conspirator, shifting attention toward Meghan's financial motives, highlighting lawsuits against her brand and foundation, publishing anonymized staff testimonies, demonstrating patterns of manipulation and narrative distortion. Furthermore, Princess Catherine has begun drafting a public essay for The Times titled Dignity in the Age of Disclosure, aimed at defending institutional stability against celebrity sabotage. Yet even with strategic alignment, the royal family knows the real challenge lies in combating emotional storytelling. In 2026, that battle is largely unwinnable once viral momentum sets in. Unlike royal scandals of the past, leaked tapes, books, and tabloid headlines converge instantly across multiple digital frontlines. Meghan's TikTok snippets, Instagram reels, and curated media quotes dominate attention spans, particularly among younger demographics in the US, Canada, and the Commonwealth. A poll by Horizon Analytics released on January 3rd showed that 63% of US respondents under 35 side with Meghan. In contrast, 70% of UK respondents over 40 side with the monarchy. Commonwealth countries, including Australia and South Africa, remain divided. Strong backlash has emerged among Indigenous communities who view the monarchy as symbolically oppressive. The danger is existential. If the institution cannot defend its moral coherence, it may survive the lawsuit but lose cultural legitimacy for decades. It is no longer about Meghan. It is no longer about Harry. As of January 2026, what remains is a monarchy at war with erosion from within its own bloodline. King Charles's lawsuit is not simply a legal maneuver. It is a declaration, a final attempt to draw a line in the sand between legacy and leverage. An institution long reliant on subtlety and tradition now stands face to face with a cultural battlefield it can no longer afford to ignore. Harry's paralysis and the palace's delayed response converge into a defining moment for the House of Windsor. This is not about money. This is about control. King Charles III, described by those close to him as resolute but mournful, has made it clear this lawsuit will proceed to its final consequence. There will be no out-of-court settlement, no quiet buyout, no veiled apology. Any concession now would signal weakness to future generations and the watching world. The crown is negotiable, but he is not alone. Princess Catherine now forms the backbone of royal resolve, steering the public narrative, while William anchors legal strategy. Together, they understand what Charles knows too well. The monarchy survives not on popularity, but on predictability. If titles, silence, or proximity to royalty can be monetized by anyone exiting the royal fold, the crown becomes a brand, not an institution. Yet behind this show of strength lies deep emotional cost. Insiders confirm Queen Camilla has become increasingly isolated, favoring reconciliation over confrontation. Beatrice and Eugenie, once intermediaries, now find themselves marginalized. Their quiet pleas for compromise are buried under layers of legal precision and reputational defense. And then there is Harry. His continued silence as of January 3rd has left the palace preparing for all outcomes: potential sworn testimony against the monarchy, a final bid for neutrality, or a complete public breakdown. Any of these outcomes could shift the tide. If the palace succeeds in court, the precedent is powerful. It formalizes the legal boundary that no royal association can be used for coercive gain. No matter how emotionally framed, it tells the world that proximity is not permission, and that the monarchy will no longer be held hostage to narrative threats. If it fails, or if the public grows exhausted or resentful, the monarchy risks permanently fracturing its moral authority in markets like the US and the Commonwealth. The final outcome may not be decided by legal arguments alone, but by public stamina. Which side better sustains its story, coherence, and composure? The table now is a document reportedly drafted by Princess Catherine and vetted by royal legal advisors, a formal succession code addendum to be introduced before Easter 2026. This doctrine would bar any individual who monetizes royal access post-departure from holding titles, receiving privileges, or representing the crown in any capacity. In other words, a constitutional firewall. It would be the most decisive post-Elizabethan reform to the institution. It may arrive too late to mend this fracture, but just in time to prevent the next. As of January 3rd, 2026, the royal family has chosen its position. Not silence, not appeasement, but structured confrontation. What remains now is who will cross that line in the sand and who will be left behind when the dust settles. If you found this insight into the royal crisis gripping, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and leave a comment below with your thoughts on who will survive this unprecedented showdown.